Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are in for a special treat today. This is a collabo on both platforms, the Warch Port and To the Point on both platforms at the same time. You, ladies and gentlemen, you are in for a special treat tonight with my man, Prob Warch. How you doing today, brother?
I'm good, Brian. How you doing? Thank you for having me on here.
I'm doing all right, man. Just getting over a cold. Sorry if my voice isn't as loud as it normally is. I know some of you people hate that. But um, speaking of things getting loud, there's been a lot of loud rumors all across the internet. And we've seen it on your, I believe it was your last video um,
Yeah.
about this specific topic that we're going to talk about. You went into a lot of detail, but let's
Mhm.
go deeper into some of the other things that have to deal with this specific topic because it is major, right? Now, we've seen a lot of rumors, speculation over the last year, some fair weather fans, some random people, a lot of, here and there's, right? Match points. Um, saying that the one and only, the swirl, the spicy P is involved in trade rumors with the Toronto Raptors. Now, whoa, Prob, I gotta ask you, let's pump the brakes on this one. Let's get into detail. Should the Toronto Raptors trade Pascal Siakam?
No, I've always been on this side of saying the Raptors should not trade Pascal Siakam. I want to go into more details, but I kind of want to see what you got to see if we're agreeing on the same page, or maybe we can take this back and forth depending on what you got to say. What do you think, Brian? I'm going to quickly throw this back at you. Do you think we should, or do you think we shouldn't?
Oh, hell no, hell no, keep them.
Yeah.
But like, why would people be saying this right now?
So I
Why
think
is this a speculation?
the reason there are a lot of fans, again, I've engaged with a lot of fans from both sides, the ones that do want to keep him and the ones that don't want to keep him. And based on what I'm hearing from a lot of fans, and it pretty much, I guess, if you want to say this, it kind of goes with along with what Masai and Bobby are doing, is they don't want to give him the max contract because they've got so much money already on the board, especially now with RJ. They're going to have to pay Emmanuel quickly, easily 22, 25 million on his first year. And then they've got Scotty's extension kicking in as well. And obviously, salary being a big issue, if the Raptors were to re-sign him. What I'm hearing again, this is not something I think is an issue, but a lot of fans that think that we should trade Pascal believe that you're going to have to pay him too much and it's not worth keeping because our salary is going to be, or we're going to go into tax. We're going to end up paying into the tax. So that's why I'm hearing from a lot of people. So again, I'll let you, I'll give this back to you before I kind of give my take on what the Raptors should do with the Pascal situation here.
Well, you know what? I was honestly thinking like, why bother getting rid of him when when you look at what he has, how he's performed since the
Yeah,
championship season, right? And like a lot of people have been putting the blame on him because, and I'll say this because there has not been a face on this team really since the championship season with after the departure of Kawhi, after the departure of Kyle, after the departure of Fred VanVleet. I think a lot of fans have actually put too much pressure on Pascal. But let's face it, during those winning seasons, he was not the guy, but the fans in their minds have put him on that pedestal as that guy. He's not that guy, but you know what? He has been extremely consistent, right? Over the last
yeah.
since 2018, 2019. And I honestly think there's no reason to trade him. When you look at his numbers, it's extremely consistent.
Mhm.
Everything has been basically the same. Offense,
Yeah.
defense numbers. Go look it up, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't want to, I can tell you. I got them all written down right here. Okay. You know what I mean? I just don't see it. But there's that one issue like basketball being uh I want to throw this one at you. Basketball being a business and players considered assets, right? And considering this is his last year in a contract. And like you said on your last video, ladies and gentlemen, go check that out. That he is looking for a max contract if he were to leave. Now, should the Raptors give him the max contract, my friend?
Well, I don't. Here's what I think. I think I've always said this. Like, I think fans worry too much about money, and I see this in a sense where, if you recall, Brian, you remember when we signed OG Anunoby to that $18 million contract, and a lot of fans were saying, "Well, that's way too much for OG Anunoby." And literally after, I'd say probably one season or even a season and a half, a lot of fans realized how good that deal was and what a steal that was actually. So again, it kind of goes along with a lot of the contracts we signed in the past. Pascal Siakam making too much money at 35 million is pretty good value for him. So I think fans fail to realize that today's money is not tomorrow's money. In today's world, yes, paying him 42, $43 million is a lot. And what a lot of people think is when we pay guys like Pascal, look, he's a great player. He's not a number one option, but that shouldn't necessarily be the reason why you want to get rid of him. That's pretty much stating the obvious. Like just because someone's a number two option doesn't mean that you should get rid of him. By that logic, then not a lot of teams would have a lot of good players. I mean, the Celtics got Jaylen Brown. If he's not a number one option, why not trade him? If there's a lot of good players on this around the league, in fact, you could argue that are number two options. And I know, look, maybe that's a bad example with the Celtics because they do have Jason Tatum, as a number one option there. But like around the league, there's a lot of players that are legitimately number two options on most teams. That doesn't necessarily mean that that should be the right move to make to trade that player just because it's not a number one option. Like when you look around the league, Brian, there's probably, I don't want to put a number on it. There's only a handful of players you could see if they went to any team around the NBA, they'd be legitimately the number one option on most teams, about 95% of teams in the NBA. So I don't see the issue there. Again, in terms of Pascal's contract, when we do talk about Pascal making 42, 45, $47 million, that contract in a few years is going to look much better. I think people are too focused on, well, he's making the same amount of money as Steph Curry is. Once these guys start, their contract expires. Like look at Jaylen Brown's contract. I believe it's starting to kick in next season. He's going to be making what around $50 million, and his last season, I believe he's making $70 million, which is just absolutely insane to think of now. But again, you have to take into consideration how much money the players are going to be making moving forward. So I don't see it as an issue. I'd pay Pascal Siakam maybe a little bit less than a max, I'd say, but I still think he's very valuable to this team.
So I agree with you 100% because you just hit the nail on the head, right? Jaylen Brown, right, getting paid the max, but they had to keep him because do you think Jason Tatum could be doing as well as he can without Jaylen Brown?
Exactly.
Like, do you
Exactly.
think Scotty Barnes could be doing as well without Pascal Siakam? They'd have to carry the load, right? So I understand spending the money, like you said, today's money ain't the same as tomorrow's money, right? But to keep him in that position, right,
Mhm.
in order to let the other guys flourish, and look at what Boston has done since last year, right? You just nailed it, brother. Oh my God, amen, amen. I honestly think that yes, give him the contract, give it to him. We'll pay the luxury tax. I'll go buy a bunch of swirlies from McDonald's.
Well, not only that, I think there's so much more money you can move around. Like Thaddeus Young, I was looking at this. I've mentioned this in my previous videos, but Thaddeus Young, Otto Porter Jr., Gary Trent Jr., Chris Boucher, four of them combined are making $38 million. Those players, with respect to them, with how Gary Trent, how inconsistent he's been, that's the player you should be looking to move. And he wants a starting role. He's not, let's be honest, he's a young player. He doesn't want to be coming off the bench. He's definitely going to go to another team and probably be making, 22, 23, $24 million on his next contract as a starting point. So again, I think there's a lot of other contracts that can be moved. Thaddeus Young, Otto Porter are expiring contracts as well. So
But okay, so Thaddeus Young, Otto Porter, Porter's a guard, Thad's a big man, and especially right now, currently with two of the big men out, you
yeah.
got Pascal, you got Scotty, you got Chris, trying to watch the middle, right? And we starting to see how valuable these players are when it comes to defense. But however, let's play devil's advocate. Okay. Just a quick game with you. But
Yep.
if you were to get rid of Pascal and send him to another team,
Mhm.
all the possible trade rumors I've seen, even on your show, have been mostly small forwards, guards, nobody that's really down there that you can rely on where you can throw the ball into the paint and have them create something, right?
Mhm.
And which is something that the Raptors will, it'll be a void for them.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
they will definitely need to fill that void. So
Mm.
if the Raptors were to get rid of Pascal, what are you looking for?
I'm essentially looking. I know it's kind of ironic we say this, a 3-and-D player. We just traded OG Anunoby, but again, it was a situation where you get spare parts for a really good player. And I wouldn't even call them spare parts with the way that RJ and IQ have been playing, but I think it allows you to trade one good player for two good players as well, right? So if the Raptors are trading for Pascal, ideally, I think you'd want a center, or I know this sounds weird because we do have Jakob. A lot of people do like Christian Koloko, including myself, but I would either look for a 3-and-D or a center, personally, if you ask me. And then, I mean, I like Jakob. I know he gets a lot of shit from a lot of fans, excuse my language, but um, it's it is what it is. I think at this point, like if you're looking for a stretch three, stretch big man and someone that can play defense, those are incredibly hard to find around the NBA. If you can, that'd be great. I don't think the Raptors will get that in a trade, but ideally, probably a 3-and-D player, I'd say. And Brian, quick question: are you asking for specific names or just the types of players?
If you want to give me a specific name, because they're far and few through this league that
It's
can be available. Once a team's
yeah.
got them, they want to hold them. So if you want to
Well,
hit me up with a name, bring it on.
it's they're never going to trade it, but Dallas has been a team that has been constantly in the rumor mill for someone like Pascal Siakam. Again, it's a big, major, major if. The likelihood that they actually gave up someone like a Derek Lively would be very rare. But if we could get him for Pascal Siakam, that'd be a great starting point. Now, I know I've actually said a lot of bad things about Jonathan Kuminga. If the Raptors can get him, he's a very athletic. You can kind of slide him in that power forward, small forward position because RJ Barrett, then you can move him to the shooting guard position. I mean, he's a decent defender, but it gives you a lot more size, I think, with Jonathan Kuminga as well. Benedict Mathurin, I really like him. I really, really
I,
like him. I know people like Juris Walker, but I'd rather have Benedict Mathurin. I think he would be such a nice player to pair up with, what we currently have in our young players. So those are probably some of the names I'm looking for. Again,
yeah, but
I
trade
do
him
want to
within the
mention
conference.
yeah, yeah. I mean, they traded OG to their division rival, right? So, I mean, I don't know what the teams are willing to give up. I don't know if a lot of teams will give up a ton for Pascal Siakam, who, again, he's constantly stated he only wants to re-sign with the Raptors, and he's an expiring contract. So, again, those are some of the players I'm looking for.
I honestly, I think the point is moot because really, I don't think Pascal's going anywhere. If they
Hmm.
were to bring somebody in, I want to see if they were to trade pretty much the guy that was the face of the team prior
Hmm.
to Scotty, and especially during his developmental side over the first 2 years. Um, if you're going to trade him out, don't do it unless you're going to bring me something franchise changing. Like,
Hmm.
I know this sounds out of left field, but
Yep.
like don't say anything unless I hear like a Giannis or a Joker or something like that,
But
right?
but here's the thing, Brian. We're
I don't
not
want to hear
like
anything about that because then you could
even.
totally revamp.
But here's the thing, though, Brian. Even if we had Pascal under contract, we're not getting the Giannis's, we're not getting the Jokic's because those type of players are. I mean, those were very raw players when they came in, right? Maybe not. I can't recall how raw Jokic really was, but he's, I mean, a second round draft pick, right? So it wasn't like he was a top 10, player that was drafted in his draft class. Giannis was a project, but he ultimately panned out. So again, I think with Pascal, if you're trading him for a sure piece, yes, it makes sense. But if you're trading him for a raw player, that's a huge, huge gamble for the Raptors. So
Yeah, that definitely would be, but I really don't think it's really within the Raptors' best intentions to get rid of him. We just played the game of devil's advocate if we were to get rid
yeah,
of him, right?
true.
I don't think they should, man. Honestly,
No. I agree. I agree. I think the one point that not a lot of people make when we talk about trading Pascal is, yes, sure, the money thing. But when we talk about some of these names, like you look at Benedict Mathurin, he'd be a nice return, but the last thing you really need with a young core is four guys that all really want the ball, right? You got Scotty in there, you got IQ in there, RJ wants the ball. Now imagine adding another young guard in there, or even a small forward, that really wants the ball. I don't know. It complicates things, man. And egos come into play, especially with younger players that feel like they want a bigger role or they want the ball more to kind of display what they're able to do. When you're 22 years old, when you're 21 years old, when you're whatever, even if you're 24, 25 years old, you still have that fire burning in you that you want to showcase, to the entire NBA to earn maybe that next big contract. So I think eventually that does become a problem with egos, with money, endorsements. There's so much to take into consideration when we talk about particularly the young players. And it's not like Pascal has kind of looked out of sync with this new offense, right? Like he's complemented it really well, and he's mature enough to realize, like, hey, if Scotty's going to get his, let him get his. If RJ is going to attack, if IQ is going to attack, let them get theirs, and I'll take some shots as well. He can put aside his ego. He's at that point in his career. So
That's exactly my last point because I've noticed after the acquisition of Schroeder, RJ, IQ, right?
yeah,
Scotty's still developing, right? I've
true.
noticed Pascal seems a little more comfortable. It's not just put it on him and the other team is just
Yeah,
looking at him on defense, right?
true.
I've noticed he's been flourishing extremely well, right?
Hmm.
Less shots per game, but still putting up the same numbers um, this season so far. And I think maybe him as being a leader, being one of the few left on the roster from the championship team, right?
Hmm.
To understand that these young guys are coming up and what to do since he came out of the 905 pipeline, right?
Hmm.
So he's been in their position before and he understands it. I think
Yeah.
I think that he realizes it. And you know what? Based on everything that he's done since coming out of the
Hmm.
905 pipeline, I think he deserves the max contract. Prob,
Yeah.
you got anything else to say before we get out of here, man? Because time's
I just want to say thank you for having me here, man. This was awesome doing this. It's been a long time since we've collabed. I've been so busy with work, man, Brian. I told you this off screen when we chatted a bit before this video, but it's always nice, doing a collaboration with you. So thank you for having me.
no. Thank you for having me on the War Report.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank both of us, right? I guess. And we don't know. I don't know which whose channel this video is going to be uploaded on, but yeah, it's always
It should be on both.
let's do both. All right. That's going to
Let's
be
do
fun.
it on
So
both.
let's do
Let's
it on
share
both.
it to all the Raptors fans that we could possibly hit out there because I know everybody loves Spicy P. People come up to me on the street, Brian, what do you think about Pascal? Watch the show,
Yeah. So
right?
no, thank you for having me. So it's awesome doing a collab with you.
Oh, thanks for having me. Yeah, we'll figure this out. But on behalf of myself, Prob, to the point, Ward Report. Oh my goodness, ladies and gentlemen, this is something spectacular. I probably won't sleep tonight. So, on behalf of all of us, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good night, and
Peace.
peace.